Hello and welcome to another edition of Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, Public Information Director for the Morris County Government. Focus on Morris County is a program that's designed to keep us up to date on the actions that are being taken by the Morris County Board of Freeholders. The show is also intended to make us all more aware of the many facets of Morris County government. For example, on this segment of the program, we are going to learn about a juvenile fire-setter prevention program. And here to tell us about this program are my guests. First to my left is Rochelle Faris. Rochelle is the Juvenile Justice Coordinator in the Morris County Department of Human Services. And seated next to Rochelle is Mike Pellick. Mike is a volunteer with the program, and he is also a former Roxbury Township Fire official. Folks, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Rochelle, before we get to the Firesetter prevention program itself, give us a little idea as to what some of your responsibilities are as Juvenile Justice Coordinator.
Okay. I act as a state liaison with the Juvenile Justice Commission and the State Division of Children's Behavioral Health Services. As part of this, I oversee 3 different grants that come into the county from the Juvenile Justice Commission and also the County Grant and Aid for Youth Services. I coordinate and monitor the subgrants that are awarded through these grants, and I also oversee the Morris County Juvenile Firesetter Prevention Program. Okay,
let's get right to that particular program. Explain to us a little bit about what the prevention program is, how it works.
It's an educational prevention program that's available to all juveniles under 18 in Morris County.
I would assume the goals of the program are expressed in the name, Juvenile Firesetter Prevention Program, or do they run a little bit deeper than that?
Mostly it's prevention. Our goals, we have 4 of them, and it's to provide fire safety education to all children, adolescents, and adults, to coordinate a multidisciplinary program that addresses the multifaceted problem of juvenile fire setting, to decrease the number of incidences and new fire sets, and to reduce the risk of recidivism, and to provide basically a safer community for everyone.
Mike, let me turn to you. What is your involvement in the program?
I serve on the committee for the program, as well as I'm a volunteer fire safety educator.
And is that how you got involved in the program to begin with?
I got involved because of a personal experience stemming a long time ago in my very early years in the fire service, where there was a death of 2 children, and the outcome of that was that the children actually set the fire that ended up taking their lives.
You mentioned something about a committee. Can you talk a little bit about this committee, how it's made up, and is it an advisory committee to the program itself?
It's a committee made up of not only like volunteer educators, the fire service, it's police, police involvement, school programs, as well as the county. Okay.
Rochelle, are there other folks involved in the Juvenile Firesetter Prevention Program besides the Department of Human Services?
There are. The Roxbury Fire Prevention Bureau, the Mount Olive Office of the Fire Marshal, Madison Fire Department, St. Clair's Hospital, Morris County Prosecutor's Office, and the State Division of Fire Safety.
And these agencies all have different roles, I assume, in the program?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mike, how serious a problem are we talking about here in terms of juveniles setting fires?
Juvenile fire setting is a serious problem. However, it's one of those things that is underreported. So we're just getting a handle on the stem of the problem. So it's not like it's a very serious problem throughout Morris County, but it's a problem throughout nationwide.
Underreported maybe because people think that kids have kind of like a natural curiosity about fire?
Exactly.
Yeah. Rochelle, walk us through the program. How is a juvenile referred to the prevention program, and by whom?
Okay, referrals come to me, and they can come through a variety of different sources. They include police departments, fire departments, schools, social service agencies such as DIFUS, family court, or parents.
And why would a juvenile be referred to the program?
There's multiple reasons. A parent can be concerned because their kid is playing with matches just a little too much, or they come through the courts as court-ordered referrals because the kid has gotten in trouble for setting a fire.
Okay, so after a referral is made, what happens then? Kind of take us for a walk through the program.
There's 3 different pieces of referral paperwork that I get to start it off. We have a referral form, an information consent form, and a screening tool. I review the paperwork, make sure it's all there and it's all completed. The first thing I look at is the screening tool, and it was created to help determine whether or not a juvenile should be referred for an evaluation. And depending on the results of that, I would refer the child for either an evaluation or straight on to our education session. If the screening tool recommends that the youth be referred for an education, or an evaluation, I'm sorry, I contact the parent and guardian and let them know that the screening tool recommended that they take their child for an evaluation. I inform them that they should contact their insurance provider to see where they may be covered for an evaluation, and let them know of a couple places that we know provide these evaluations, because there's no funding through our program for evaluations. And then after that, the parent will call me back or let me know where they can go, and then I send the referral out to the clinician and wait for the evaluation to come back completed. If the youth is low or medium risk, then the clinician will send me the referral information back, and I'll refer them for an education session. If the youth is high risk, they're usually not referred for our education session, but more likely for further treatment, because our program's designed really for the low or medium risk firesetters. From this point out, the referrals that come through that do not indicate the need for an evaluation are handled the same as any that would come in just for the education. The juveniles are referred for the fire safety education session, and the sessions can be either group sessions or individual sessions. Depends on the type of incident, or sometimes clinicians will specify, or referral sources will specify, that the youth are better in group settings or in individual settings, so we do take that into account. The education is approximately 2 hours in length, and we try to hold one group session per month, depending on schedules and the availability of our volunteers. And then individual sessions are also scheduled throughout the month, depending on the schedules and the availability of our volunteers. These sessions usually include pre-tests, post-tests, discussions of incidents, and videos. Is there anything you'd like to add about those?
Really, my job is to get to the stem of the problem, and talk about the problem and let them know the consequences that it could have had, and then move forward from there through our education of them, and really get them to be a fire safety advocate from there on out.
So Mike, you're actually one of the folks who presents one of these education sessions to the juveniles?
Yes.
And can you explain, they're 2-hour sessions, some of the things maybe that are included in the session, let's say, that you might present? What are some of the things that you talk about to the kids?
The first thing that we talk about is really the incident that brought that child into the program, and the consequences that go along. And this isn't just for the child, this is also for the parents, and the parents are very involved. A lot of times the parents take away as much as the kids do. We show a video segment, depending on the situation, different examples of what has happened to somebody else. Maybe somebody got hurt in their fire set, or maybe just to show how fast a fire can spread and the consequences. And then we always follow up with some testing to make sure that they've gotten and understood what we're trying to teach them during that session.
Are there any warning signs, Mike, that a parent should look for, before they start to be concerned?
Really, I want to first say, before a warning sign, is parents need to have supervision of the children. And many times we find that there's a lack of supervision, not knowing what their child, where they were, what they were doing. If supervision is key. But in the younger kids, you may find that the kid is asking a lot of questions about fire, maybe very excited when he sees fire on TV and like that. And then there's times where you might see unfounded burn marks in the bedroom, or newspapers in the garbage, or something outside. That's for a younger child. Mm-hmm. The older child, some of the warning signs could be that they socially don't fit in with their age group. They may have a learning disability. There's peer pressure. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of underlying things in addition to the fire setting.
Are teachers looking for the same warning signs, or do they differ?
I think the teachers are looking for that child who's not fitting in socially, is having a tough time in school for whatever reason. They're more like what the teachers will be looking for in the schools. Yeah.
Rochelle, how long does a juvenile usually remain in the program?
It really depends on the level of involvement from the parents, the point at which the referral is received within the month, and whether or not the juvenile is recommended for an evaluation. We've had kids complete in a couple of days, or some have taken longer than 10 months.
Yeah. Did we say, and forgive me for asking this if we already covered this, did we say how old or what the age range is? Where, I mean, we're talking about juveniles, but how young have you seen them come into the program, and how old do you take them into the prevention program?
The youngest that we've had, I believe, was 6 years old. We are 4 up to 18 years old, but we have had cases where the youth is over 18 at the time of referral, but the incident was when they were younger than 18, so we'll try and do an individual session because more than likely they're older than the rest of the kids in the program.
Okay. And Rochelle, how long has this program been in existence?
It's been around since the beginning of the 1990s, I would say.
Yeah. And the funding for the program, how does that come about? I see you smiling.
There is no funding. It's part of one of my job duties, and the volunteers give their own time. They do it in the time that they have after they complete their work day.
So this is actually a program that is kind of included in the budget for the Department of Human Services? No, it's just a part of your job responsibilities. Yep. Yeah. I want to ask you, Rochelle, to give us some of your contact information if someone wanted to learn more about the Morris County Juvenile Firesetter Prevention Program. How can they reach out to you?
They can reach me by calling me. It's 973-285-6850, and that's a direct line to my office. I try and respond to the calls within a day of getting them, but with schedules the way they are, no more than 2 days.
Yeah, okay.
So it's usually a quick turnaround.
Okay. Rochelle Faris and Mike Pellick, I want to thank you both very much for being with us today and telling us about Morris County's Juvenile Firesetter Prevention Program. Now, if you have a question about county government that you would like to have answered, you can call the Morris County Freeholders Office, and that telephone number is 973-285-6010. You may also visit the county governments on the web at co.morris.nj.us. I'm Joe Garifo. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm John Pecoraro, surrogate of Morris County. If a loved one passes away and you need to transfer property to their heirs, you must come to the surrogate's court. This is true even if the deceased did not have a will. This process is known as probate. Now, probate in New Jersey is not overly complicated, and my staff is available to assist you. If you have any questions, please call my office at 973-285-6500 or visit our website at morrissurrogate.com.
Welcome back to Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, and on this segment of the program, we're going to be discussing some county government issues with my guest, Morris County Freeholder Margaret Nordstrom. Freeholder Nordstrom has been on the Freeholder Board since 1999. She is a former 3-time director of the board. Margaret, welcome to the program.
Happy to be here.
One of Freeholder Nordstrom's areas of responsibility is chairing the Freeholder Budget Committee, something she has done for the past several years. The Freeholders adopted the 2011 county budget back in March. Freeholder Nordstrom, what does the 2011 budget look like compared to 2010, let's say? What are the bottom line figures for the 2011 budget?
Well, I'm happy to report that the tax levy is $5 million less. We actually moved to program-based budgeting a number of years ago. That was my initiative, and it's made it easier for us to prioritize and figure out what we want to cut. I mean, we're now operating under a 2% hard cap, which is really a challenge because we can't control all our costs. So we this year asked our employees to take a 0% increase, and really almost all of them did. And that allowed us to reduce salaries by 1%, bring in our net operating budget at an increase of 1.89%, and we coupled that with a cut in the open space tax. So we ended up lowering taxes for the 3rd straight year.
In terms of, let's say, line items or areas in the budget that are funded, what are some of the highlights, or what are some of the areas that you think taxpayers should know about?
I think, you know, again, going back to the challenge of a 2% hard cap, we've really started to reach out to our sister counties for partnering efforts. We partner with Warren County, Hunterdon County, and Sussex County to use our juvenile detention center and our youth shelter. Obviously, they pay us money to do that, which helps their bottom line because it's cheaper for them, but it's also helping our bottom line too because it covers our costs with a little bit extra.
You mentioned reducing the open space tax.
Yes.
The freeholders have done this now for the past several years.
Yes.
I believe it is now maybe at 1.5 cents per
Something like that.
$100.
It's about $17 million in change right now.
Does this mean that the land that is in need of preservation here in Morris County is on the decrease, that we're almost preserving as much land as there is to preserve?
I think so. You know, when you look back, the open space initiative has been going on for 20 years. I mean, really, it started when I first went on the Washington Township Committee, and you're seeing the effects of 20 years of really a lot of hard work in preserving land. So eventually the open space tax is going to be completely unnecessary because all the good projects will be done. And I think we're starting to see that kick in now. We are down from a high of $40 million for open space funding. We didn't use it. You know, there weren't enough projects to use up all that money. So that's when we decided that, you know, we would start to cut gradually, because we didn't want to put ourselves in a position where, you know, a really good project came in and there wasn't enough money to do it. But it seems to be working out.
When do the freeholders start to look at 2012 in terms of putting a budget together for that year?
Well, you know, that's kind of a two-part answer. First of all, when you work on like the prior year's budget, you don't want to do anything stupid that's going to put you in a bad position the following year, you know, like with gimmicks and things like that. So we don't do that. We think about, you know, budgeting 3-4 years ahead. So in that sense, we're always thinking about the next year's budget. When we're going to get down to brass tacks will probably be in June for the 2012 budget.
Okay. Again, I'm assuming that we're going to be working with that 2% cap.
Oh, yeah.
So is it going to be as difficult, more difficult?
I think it's going to be, you know, as difficult.
Yeah.
You know, the good news is we're in good shape going into 2012, but you know, there's always the unexpected expense. You know, it's like, you know, what's going to happen with fuel costs. That plays into our budget big time. But you know, as I said, we have a process that I'm very confident in. You know, and we talk about priorities all the time, and you know what things we can do with that, and that's going to be, you know, the way of the world in New Jersey for quite some time.
Yeah. One of the other areas that you've been involved with over the past couple of years, yourself, a couple of your colleagues on the Freeholder Board, has been a partnership, so to speak, or an outreach program with the Morris County Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
You've been, and a chamber, the president, Paul Boudreau, has been going to various companies, corporations in the county, meeting with their executives. What have you learned from this outreach program? Or, well, let's take a step back. What prompted the outreach program to begin with, and what are some of the things that you've learned?
Well, you know, we started it under the Corzine administration because I was really unhappy with the way Trenton was dealing with, you know, our corporations, our businesses. There really wasn't a lot of support, and we all were getting tired of watching, you know, our businesses leave and go to Pennsylvania because there was you know, Governor Rendell was very aggressive about cherry picking businesses, and I thought, you know, we've just got to do something here. And what we decided to do was work with Paul Boudreau, go and visit these corporations and say, you know, we are, as a Freeholder Board, tremendously interested in making sure that you stay in Morris County, and whereas we're not a legislative body, we're an administrative body, we will do whatever we can to facilitate, you know, what it takes to keep you here, because we want, you know, we want you here, we want these jobs here. And it really worked out very well. What I learned, going back to your first question, is it was a very, very good thing to do because, you know, without exception, all the corporations told us that they were really delighted that we took the time to come visit with them and express an interest in their well-being. You know, you know, we met with CEOs. One corporation trotted out 5 vice presidents for us. It was, you know, it was really amazing. They were so grateful that somebody took the time. Now with the Christie administration, you know, things are a lot better for them. We have you know, a lieutenant governor who, you know, has economic development as #1 on her priority list, and she's out there talking to them too. But you know, we want to be the boots on the ground for the Christie administration.
And this is an ongoing program. It's continuing in 2011.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was this outreach program which led to the formation by the freeholders of a more formal program, an economic advisory committee. What is the purpose of this committee?
Well, I wanted to, you know, as you said, the outreach was so successful that I wanted to formalize it. I wanted to have a group that I could point to and say, look, we have a formal committee in Morris County. You know, this shows that we are really serious. And I wanted to bring in more players. I wanted to bring in County College. I wanted to bring in the School of Technology. We brought in the Workforce Investment Board, Morris County Economic Development Corporation, and also the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, just to work on, you know, what do we need to do to keep our businesses in Morris County? For example, one of the things that we're working on right now is making sure that there are training programs available at whatever institution or business is appropriate to service our corporations. We heard of one corporation that needed specialized training for their workforce, 200 people, and they were sending them to North Carolina, and we thought, that's no good. Let's keep them here. So County College is partnering with them to develop the curriculum that they need, so they'll be getting their training here in Morris County. So we're sort of thinking maybe at the end of the process there'll be a directory. If you need this type of training, go to County College. If you need another type, School of Technology, maybe where you want to go, or if you need a third type, there are local businesses that do employee training, and we can send people there as well.
Another advisory committee that's been formed by the Freeholders involves Freight Rail, a Freight Rail Advisory Committee. Again, the purpose of this committee?
Well, actually, it's very interesting because when we started it, it was because we were rehabilitating the Chester Branch Railroad, and the town of Roxbury was very concerned about what that might do to them because the train line went along the side of one of their parks. So the original thought was, and it's a good thought and was still valid, is to make sure that the towns that are affected by the railroads have some place to go, where their concerns can be heard. And that's why we started. However, it turns out that it's also going to be related to economic development because at one of our last meetings we heard about a kind of a choke point in Phillipsburg. There's a bridge that's too low to allow the big trains to go through. Eventually there will only be big train cars. No more little cars will be manufactured, so we need to work on that as well.
When we're speaking about freight rail, and you mentioned the Chester branch, for the past year or so, that branch has been undergoing rehabilitation. It's now completed. And again, by way of just backtracking for a bit, Morris County owns 3 rail lines. We don't operate them, but the county owns them. They're freight lines. What do the freeholders hope will be accomplished by the rehabilitation of the Chester branch?
Well, I think one of the things that we hope will be accomplished, and again we have to work with the Phillipsburg Bridge on this one, is that the businesses that are there that are serviced by the freight line will stay there. They've already said, particularly Holland Manufacturing, if it wasn't for that freight line, they would not be staying there. They would be moving. The freight line also goes into the old Westinghouse property in Randolph, which is currently vacant, and we're hoping that this might, incentivize somebody to come in and take over that site and bring it back to life.
And of course, there was also the issue of maybe taking some trucks off the road in terms of movement of goods.
I think so. And there are a couple of new studies out about projected truck traffic, and it's going to be truly terrifying on Route 80 and other roads if that comes to pass. So we absolutely need to take truck traffic off the road wherever we can, and this will be a good way of doing it.
The freeholders have also begun to embrace, let's say, various forms of social media. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Flickr. What is the thought process here? How can these forms of social media be used to communicate to the public?
Well, it's that's the way communication is going, and I'm so totally inept at some of them. I'm just a beginner using Facebook, using Twitter, the whole thing. But where I think it's tremendously important is in emergency notification. We have a program called McUrgent, and you can sign up for that on Facebook. You can sign up for that on Twitter, and you will get notifications from our Office of Emergency Management about things that might impact you. I mean, during the recent flooding, we had little, tweets from OEM about road closings in Pequannock or Route 23 or whatever. But it's a good way to get the word out, particularly through Twitter, because that goes to your cell phone. And if it's an emergency where power has gone out or if you lost your regular phone service, you can still get those messages on your cell phone.
And in just a second or two, we'll be letting our viewers know how they can access those forms of social media. But Freeholder Margaret Nordstrom, I want to thank you very much for being with us today.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
Now, if you have a question about county government or a county government issue that perhaps we did not discuss here in these past few minutes, you can call the Morris County Freeholders Office at 973-285-6010, and you can also visit the county government's website, and that is morriscountynj.gov. And once you're on the website, you can take advantage of those various forms of social media that we just talked about. You can, first of all, sign up for our electronic newsletter, Morris Connections. You can become a Morris County Government Facebook fan. You can follow us on Twitter. You can take a look at past programs on YouTube. You can check out our document library, which is on Scribd, and you can do a whole lot of other things too once you are on our website. I'm Joe Garifo. Thank you very much for being with us. Tune in again next week at this time, won't you, for another edition of Focus on Morris County.